Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, let's take a look at the S&P, the Dow, the Nasdaq, and the Russell, and try and make some sense of the muted volatility we've been seeing so far this week. Now, when I say muted volatility, that really comes from this idea that for most of the week here, we've just been chopping around inside of our volatility box ranges. That's been true in the S&P, the Dow, the Nasdaq, and the Russell. We've been looking for breaches of our sign entry line for fade setups. That hasn't happened, so price action really hasn't been going to any sort of extreme edge. The only thing we've really come close to is something like this on the Russell, where we have price action hit our gray target lines. And so really the takeaway from all of this information is that so far volatility looks like it's taking a breather, it's slowed down a tad, and we're looking at trying to find ways to understand what happens next in price action. Now to try and answer that question, I think it's useful to come into a daily time frame chart. If I maximize this cell, let's focus in on the S&P here first. Now on the S&P, most recently, we had a slingshot squeeze. We were really looking for this to take us away from that 1272 towards the 1618. The 1618 still is a little bit above price action, 4153.62. So we still have a bit of room to go until we hit that target. However, the squeeze here has already fired, and we're currently on that second day in which that squeeze is fired long. So that's one thing to keep in mind is typically here we'd start to see momentum halt a bit, which would then give us an opportunity for a pullback at the market pulse line. That's currently 3960.50. And if we did get that pullback, I think that would be a nice opportunity to enter for some sort of a long position, either using SPY options, micro futures, whatever you like, trying to play this move into 4153.62. So until that point, until we do have that pullback or say momentum here starts to decline, I imagine that muted volatility on the 1 minute time frame would continue, and we just continue waiting for price action to give us the clues of when that break actually happens. Now, if I switch over to the Dow charts here, what should stand out on the Dow is the squeeze here is still forming and it has yet to fire. So here, the squeeze, for example, could continue to keep forming, and if we had that same pullback idea, 32,589, then that would give you an opportunity to try and play not only a squeeze move in the Dow, but also do so with an pullback to the market pulse line, really the most ideal scenario that we could have. The one other thing that I'll point out is we've had most recently that same slingshot squeeze and squeeze signal, and with that squeeze is already fired. So now we're looking for a fresh, brand new move. That move may still take a bit of time as the squeeze starts to gather its feet just a tad, which is where I think we get that pullback opportunity if we get it at all. Now we keep moving forward here. The Nasdaq futures. The Nasdaq here looks a little bit different compared to the S&P and the Dow, and out of the three to me looks to be the strongest in terms of the move we'd be looking at. Now that really comes from a few different reasons. The first is this overwhelming cluster of bullish signals. Now for the most part here, our market pulse has been red most recently, so that's the one ding against it. But you'll notice here the squeeze looks like it's gaining a nice bit of momentum, maybe a little bit too much where it needs to take a bit of a pause here, say throughout the end of this week. You still get that same pullback, but the Nasdaq here is looking like it has the most bullish signals, which would then give us an opportunity to break above this 200 extension and start to create a new 1272 extension using that 13,900 swing to a swing low of this current swing, which would then give you a 1272 at 14,361.06, a little above that key resistance of 14,000. Now, finally, if we switch over to a chart of the Russell also looks pretty interesting to me for a handful of reasons. One, we've had a pullback to the market pulse today, so that's a pretty nice zone, an area where we typically be looking at trying to enter a long position. Now, most recently here, we did have a period of bearish market pulse activity, so keep that in mind. It's not a completely clean setup. You also don't have a squeeze forming here, but the one thing I think you have that might be interesting in terms of a potential tailwind is this idea of looking for this overall longer term trend to continue. That 200% extension has yet to be hit. We've had 1, 2 squeeze signals that have really fallen short in terms of trying to take us to that move. And so if this pullback to the market pulse is really just that, a pullback in an otherwise uptrend, then that 2457.7 would be the ultimate target in the Russell to try and play with some IWM calls, maybe some micro futures, again, whatever you'd like. But that's where in the Russell, you have an opportunity to try and play a bit more of a grind up type of move without a squeeze here. So no real catalyst. In the Nasdaq, we do have a catalyst, but we have a little bit more of a bearish structure most recently with that new bullish structure just starting to form. In all cases here, we're looking for that pullback if we get it into the end of the week. And the S&P here is the one that I find to be least attractive, even when you compare it to something like the Dow, where any pullbacks to the Dow, again, opportunities to buy and try and play the squeeze up. Now, keep in mind here, if we do have any of these pullback opportunities, that likely comes with a relatively high catalyst event sort of day, and that's where coming right back in, that's the moment where the volatility box on that 1 minute time frame will be really useful when we actually do see that volatility come through in the markets, and it looks something a little bit more like this, where price action comes into our sign entry lines, gives us a better opportunity to try and enter, and gives you really the low of the day to try and get long a position in any one of these four indices. All right, I hope this video was helpful, again, in terms of trying to do a bit of a recap in terms of the lower volatility we've been seeing this week so far, as well as different things you can continue to keep an eye out for, along with daily time frame signals that you may be looking at, along with levels for pullback zones. All right, take care, everyone. Good luck trading, and we'll see you in the next update.